Welcome to Ohio Roots, the official podcast of the Ohio Genealogical Society. Join us as we embark on a captivating journey through Ohio's rich genealogy, history, and abundant resources. Hosted by me, OGS Executive Director Noel Poirier, this podcast brings you insightful conversations with a diverse array of guests, from OGS members, chapter leaders, and staff to renowned genealogists, historians, and influential figures within the genealogical community. Each episode delves into fascinating topics and captivating stories. So grab your headphones, hit that play button, and join us on this enthralling journey of Ohio's roots. Discover your roots and light up your genealogy. Join us for the Ohio Genealogical Society's annual conference, April 30th through May 3rd, 2025, at the beautiful Kalahari Resort in Sandusky, Ohio. Learn from top genealogy experts, explore groundbreaking research techniques, and connect with fellow family history enthusiasts. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, this is the must-attend event for discovering your story. Visit OGS.org to register today. That's OGS.org. Let's light up your family history together. OGS, connecting families, past and present. My guest on today's episode of the Ohio Roots podcast is Judy G. Russell. Judy is a genealogist with a law degree who writes and lectures on topics ranging from using court records and family history to understanding DNA testing. She's an internationally known lecturer and award-winning writer. She holds credentials such as Certified Genealogist and Certified Genealogical Lecturer from the Board of Certification of Genealogists. Judy will be presenting the keynote lecture titled After the Courthouse Burns, Rekindling Family History Through DNA at the 2025 OGS Conference. I hope you enjoy my conversation today with Judy G. Russell. Well, Judy Russell, thank you so much for joining me today for the OGS Ohio Roots podcast. I appreciate you taking time out of your what must be a very busy schedule to spend a little time with me today.
It's always fun.
Great. I appreciate it. The question I want to start off with, if you don't mind, is a question I've kind of asked all my guests over the last 40 or so episodes, which is, what is it that got you interested initially in doing genealogy and family history? Was there a particular family story? Was there a particular interaction? What was it that lit this fire in you?
You know, you have to remember that my mother's side of the family, which is my American side, is Scots-Irish.
Okay.
And that, by definition, means they are storytellers. So we would all gather at my grandparents' farm in Virginia in the summers. Okay. And if you were quiet and not messing up with the adults, you could sit just outside the zone and listen to the stories. Sure. And at some point, it occurred to me that it might be nice to at least have a fighting idea whether any of those stories could possibly be true. And that was really the impetus, was to check into the truthfulness of the stories. Yeah.
What part of Virginia was your family from?
They were from Central Virginia. The county is Fluvanna. Nobody's ever heard of the community because it is literally a post office.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I worked in Williamsburg, Virginia for 15 years for the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation and got to travel all around Central and Tidewater, Virginia for research purposes.
I live now in Greene County, which is just north of Charlottesville.
Oh, okay, great. Beautiful country there.
It is.
And when I read your bio, it kind of made sense when I saw what you were going to be speaking about at the OGS conference this year, because I know working at Colonial Williamsburg, when we were doing historical house research or biographical or genealogical research on residents of the city of Williamsburg, one of the great challenges was that on one side of Duke of Gloucester Street, the county records had survived. And on the other side of Duke of Gloucester Street, the county records had not survived. And so talking about kind of rekindling family history after courthouse fires, or in the case of Virginia, massive county fires that decimated lots of counties, I thought that was just a great conversation because we constantly banged our head against it on a regular basis at Colonial Williamsburg.
You know, Virginia, the Library of Virginia used to categorize its counties, the burned counties, as difficult, almost impossible, and impossible. Right. And there are so many records lost situations, particularly in the South, but not limited to the South. I mean, you guys in Ohio know very well the fate of the Hamilton County courthouse on more than one occasion. Yeah. So getting around records loss, trying to find alternative sources is critically important for many of us.
Right. And I don't want to give away your talk or anything, but when we talk about those alternative sources, I know when I was doing research at Colonial Williamsburg, one of the best alternative resources for me were things like state records, particularly during the Revolution, which could cross-reference other things that might be in the county records. Are those kind of records available more or less anywhere?
That's an it depends situation. I mean, there are some states where, for example, you're going to have a state census on the fives. Right. So 1895, 1905, 1915. And those really help fill in some of the gaps. Virginia, of course, has got the fabulous tax records starting in 1782, which are going to fill in a lot of the gaps. You get to a place like South Carolina. I remember the first time I went into the South Carolina State Archives and I asked for the tax records, and they looked at me like I'd grown a second head. That's just not as readily available a resource. So it really depends on the location, whether you're going to find a ready alternative or whether you're really going to have to dig deep.
Yeah. The title of the talk, of course, of the keynote is After the Courthouse Burns, Rekindling Family History Through DNA. So what is the connection between using DNA and then connecting those to courthouse records that may have been destroyed?
Well, the reality is that we're always going to, we should be doing our paper trail research first.
Right.
Otherwise, we're going to get our DNA hints and potentially go to the wrong family because we haven't done all of the possible documentary research that can be done to at least narrow our research focus.
Right.
Once we've done that, though, adding DNA to the mix can take us from having a nice theory to having genealogical proof.
Right.
It's one more thing to add to the documentary evidence that in combination, look, you got a great documentary case, DNA can nail it.
Right.
You got very strong DNA, it can override a lot of the documentary gaps.
Right.
It's a sliding scale.
Yeah. Can you give an example where you've used the method in your own research or in research for others?
Lord, yes. I mean, in both directions, both to prove and to disprove.
Okay.
So we had a great circumstantial case, for example, that my shoe, SHEW line in North Carolina, was connected to a shoe family that came from Shenandoah County, Virginia, and they in turn had come from the Ephrata Cloister in Pennsylvania. Great circumstantial case.
Yeah.
The problem was that when we did the Y-DNA, the Shenandoah County and Pennsylvania shoes are haplogroup R, and my shoes are haplogroup I. That's like two entirely different branches on the human family tree. So in that case, DNA saved us from wasting a lot of time trying to prove a circumstantial case that couldn't be true.
Right. That's fascinating.
That's the kind of thing that can be done. And then you can use it to, rule people in.
Yeah. Now, do you focus your research on Virginia, or are you able to kind of spread out and look all over the place? I mean, Virginia's a challenge.
My people were footloose and fancy-free.
Well, they were Scots-Irish, you said.
Exactly. They came in through Virginia and Southern Maryland and then just kept moving south.
Yeah.
I have direct line ancestors who lived in every southern state except Louisiana, where I have collaterals. And I don't count Florida because that's not really southern. Every other state, all the way to Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
I have direct line ancestors. I've got, my third great grandparents lived in North Carolina, Kentucky, Iowa, and Texas. And that's just one generation.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
that's a movement.
I specialize in research.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's, I mean, and you know this from, if you know anything about Ohio, which you do, obviously. Then one interesting thing about Ohio is how many families pass through Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
There are many that stay, obviously, but it is a kind of a pass-through state. And I grew up in Pennsylvania, not in the way Pennsylvania was people come to Pennsylvania and they tended to stay or they left, but people pass through Ohio, which sometimes makes it more of a challenge.
It does. Kentucky was the same sort of thing, where it was almost a waypoint. Mm-hmm. If they were there for one census, you were lucky.
Right.
Half the time, they never acquired land in that jurisdiction because they were literally not going to be staying.
Right.
So, yeah, Ohio is challenging for sure.
Hi, this is OGS Executive Director Noel Poirier, and I'm cordially inviting you to stay home. Put on your comfiest pajamas and do not attend our annual no-show ball. That's right, no fancy clothes, no parking hassles, no small talk. Just the satisfaction of supporting a great cause from the comfort of your couch. And what's on the agenda for this year's no-show ball? Absolutely nothing. No dinner to dress up for, no speeches to sit through, no dance moves required. But don't worry. While you enjoy your evening off, your generosity will be hard at work supporting the Ohio Genealogical Society. And this is how you do it. You stay home. You literally do anything else, and then you donate. And you can donate today at www.ogs.org/donate and use the 2024 No-Show Ball cause as your selection. No babysitter, no problem, no shoes, no problem. Thank you for not attending the No-Show Ball, but thank you for supporting the Ohio Genealogical Society. When you do genealogy, I know one of the things I enjoy about doing genealogy particularly is when I discover stories. I mean, we all have things that we love about genealogy. What is the thing when you're doing a project that you just suddenly, you're like a dog with a bone, you can't let it go? What are the aspects of doing research that you really enjoy?
Well, of course, given the fact that I go by the legal genealogist, I'm always looking for a court angle. Yeah. And to me, the icing on the cake, the best thing I can find is a bad boy or a bad girl, somebody who's going to have, because let's face it, I've got preachers and teachers and farmers, and they're boring. and half the time they don't leave records.
Right.
But you get a bad boy or a bad girl in your family history, and there are all kinds of good things you're going to find out about. Yeah. So I really like the bad boys.
What's neat about that too is oftentimes the bad boys and the bad ladies are not the ones family members want to talk about.
Oh, but you never hear about them at all.
Yeah. So as a result, they kind of disappear for that reason in many ways, I guess.
Yep.
Are there aspects of it that you particularly like to put off?
Well, there are things that I don't understand as well.
Okay.
Considering that my generation and for 2 or 3 generations back on both sides, we were pretty much heathens.
Okay.
Trying to trace the church records is always a struggle for me.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful when I come across Sunny Jane Morton's work because she does so much on church history. That to me is one of the tough things.
Yeah.
The other thing that to me as a Eastern state origin family researcher that's very hard is when I get into a jurisdiction where the original law was civil law, not common law.
Okay.
So Louisiana baffles me in many respects. I'm always grateful to find somebody else who's willing to teach a class on civil law.
Doing your research, one of the things that's common with all of us as genealogists or family historians is hitting a brick wall. Running into a family member or an individual who is a challenge. Can you give me an example of a successful brick wall for you?
Yeah, I just did a whole presentation yesterday on a 20th century brick wall. The person who was listed by my paternal grandparents when they came to the United States in 1925 as a brother to my grandmother, it was very clear very quickly that he couldn't possibly be her brother.
Yeah.
And it took me forever to figure out what the relationship was. My second great grandmother was married before the 1850 census in a burned county in Mississippi. So A, never listed with her parents on a census by name, and no marriage record, no probate record for her parents, no land records which would have identified her parents. That was probably one of the toughest brick walls that we finally were able to bring it down and then verify it with DNA.
Okay.
But yeah, particularly in southern states where vital recordation came very late. But Texas didn't start mandating vital records until 1903. Yeah. My mother was born there in 1926. There's no birth certificate.
Right.
So those are the tough cases.
If you were, had to give advice, oftentimes when we present to groups of folks, they're not genealogists, they're not family historians, or they're just getting started, right? They've just come to the library for a program and they just want to get started. What do you think is the best advice that a professional genealogist can give to somebody who is just getting started in their family history journey?
Start with yourself. So many of us, and I did this as a baby genealogist, so I'm pointing the finger back at me on this one. We want to leapfrog back to the past.
Right.
I've got a family story that I've got Alexander Baker who came in through Boston in 1635. So I try to start with Alexander and work down to me.
Sure.
That's not going to work. It introduces what's called confirmation bias, where when we find something, we think, well, that must support this theory.
Right.
So we're better off starting with ourselves, documenting our own lives, then going to our parents and then our grandparents and working carefully and methodically back generation by generation. Because so many times it turns out that those family stories were just that.
Right.
Lovely stories, but without a shred of evidence to support them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those early family stories. My great-grandfather's family story was that he had to leave England 1920s because he had been arrested there for stealing all kinds of stuff. Turns out he was a very accomplished cricket player, traveled under his own real name. He was not a criminal, but it was a nice story because my grandfather didn't like him, so that worked out well.
There you go.
Yeah. How many have you been to an OGS conference in the past?
I have.
How many would you say you've been to?
I think it's 2 others. I know I've been to one that I'm pretty sure was in Cincinnati.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I've also been out to Sandusky before.
Right. Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I enjoy about the OGS conference, and I'm preaching to the choir because our listeners, most of them will be going probably, is the social aspect of it.
No question.
I find that as a genealogist or a family historian, one of the things I love doing is sitting around and talking with people and sharing stories.
Absolutely.
And so, as much as I love, we do webinars and we do virtual meetings and virtual education, I think you really can't improve on getting together in person and having an opportunity to share ideas and concepts with people.
For sure.
And obviously you're the keynote, so you would agree with that.
Well, it's not, and as the keynote, what I love is being able to attend the sessions given by other speakers.
Sure.
There are things that I still don't know enough about that I want to learn about. And when you've got 4 or 5 webinars that are all going on the same day, you got to pick and choose. But you go to a conference like this, you give your presentation, and then you can go on and spend time with the other speakers and with the other attendees. So there's a real joy to that in-person event.
Yeah.
Thank heavens we can say that now after a few years of difficulty.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, Judy, I'm really looking forward to your keynote on after the courthouse burns. I think that's going to be fascinating. Particularly, I'll know how from my Colonial Williamsburg experience how much fun it was dealing with those kinds of issues. So thank you for joining me today on the OGS Ohio Roots podcast. I look forward to seeing you in Sandusky.
Going to be fun.
Ready to light up your genealogy? Mark your calendars for the Ohio Genealogical Society's annual conference happening April 30th to May 3rd, 2025 at Kalahari Resorts in Sandusky, Ohio. Immerse yourself in inspiring workshops, expert-led sessions, and exciting discoveries that will help you uncover your family's history. Plus, enjoy the perfect blend of learning and relaxation at one of Ohio's favorite destinations. Don't miss out. Visit ogs.org to learn more and to register. That's ogs.org. Come, connect, learn, and ignite your family story. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Judy Russell today. I really enjoyed it. I love learning the different methods that can be used, and I think that's one of the best parts about attending something like the 2025 OGS Conference, is it gives you an opportunity to meet and speak with a bunch of different types of genealogists with a bunch of different types of specialties and learn new ways to do what you need to do to help find your own family history. So I want to thank Judy for joining me today. I'm looking forward to seeing her at the 2025 OGS Conference, and thank you for listening to the OGS Ohio Roots podcast.
The Ohio Roots podcast is brought to you by the Ohio Genealogical Society, the premier gateway for discovering your Ohio family history. Hosted by OGS Executive Director Noel Poyer and edited by Luke Poyer. Theme song is Beautiful Ohio, recorded by Bob Stanley and his orchestra in 1944. To learn more about joining the Ohio Genealogical Society, visit www.ogs.org.